Welcome, everyone. Thank you all for coming. I wanted all you to know that we are live streaming this today, and Dave and Mary Kay are joining us. So, Dave, Mary Kay, welcome. Glad you're here with us today. We're here to celebrate the contributions of Dave Noble to the Kettering community. I am Mary Beth Odell, the Director of Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Arts for the City of Kettering, and honored to guide you this afternoon for this celebration. We're going to do a really quick hello. Carl's going to say, scan the audience. Everyone say hello to Dave and Mary Kay.
Go Browns.
Excellent. Thank you. In October of this year, Arnie Biondo, the Executive Director of Centerville, Washington Township Park District, a former Kettering Parks Rec Cultural Arts employee, and Becky Benet, Executive Director of Five Rivers Metro Park District, another former employee of Kettering Park Recreation Cultural Arts, as well as Joe Homewood, our former department director, started to brainstorm various ways to celebrate the many contributions Dave has made to this community, and more importantly, to the Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Arts Department. Dave, your love for the outdoors and passion for the environment guided us to the decision to celebrate your contributions with the planting of 3 mighty oak trees. The symbolism of the oak tree represents you well, Dave. The oak tree is a living legend representing all that is true, wholesome, stable, and noble. Dave, you are a gifted visionary leader who always kept your eyes focused on the future, building an amazing, award-winning recreation division in Kettering. Through your strong commitment to the community, you were the catalyst that strengthened the connection and engagement with Kettering residents, which laid the strong foundation for building a legacy department. Dave, you are forever part of the Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Arts Department legacy. Thank you. And I am honored to stand on your shoulders of a great leader like you to continue the great work of Parks and Recreation in the city of Kettering. The event today was made possible through the financial donation of the Kettering Park Foundation. At this time, I would like to introduce Frank Spolrich, board member of the Kettering Park Foundation Board and one of Dave's former teachers and coach.
I've only got about an hour of information, but I'm just going to give it to Dave so he gets it. But first, I want to make sure we recognize our Parks Foundation members. Our Parks Foundation is in place to support parks and recreation and cultural arts events throughout our city, and we've been in operation since the 80s. And we have contributed many things to the city. One of the largest ones most recently is the Veterans Memorial Park, Veterans Day. If you know where that is, up in Delco Park, that's part of our work, and we're also now working on the Art Center. But we do a lot of fine things for the city, and we appreciate the opportunity to support Dave. I want to recognize the members who may be here. I'm going to read all their names of the Parks Foundation. Neil Smalley, I know Neil's here. He's our president. He's our president. He's right there, and we've counted all the votes, and he's the president. Mary Beth's here. She works as secretary. Linda Hadley, our treasurer. I don't know if Linda's here today, but she keeps track of the meager monies that we have. If we ever send you a donation form, send it back. Jerry Barnett is on our board. Dave Brode is on our board. Sue Ellen Besh, Dave Dutton, Mike Eckley, Dave Hammond, Jim Leaks, myself, and Jane Testa. All those are board members, and they serve. We meet about once a month, try to get some things accomplished. Now, that's Parks Foundation. Parks Foundation. Let me talk to you about Dave Noble. David, this is for you, buddy. Dave has been very active in Parks and Recreation, and it was unanimous for us to support him because of his active participation in Parks and Recreation programs, his commitment to community. Whatever community he was in, he was committed to the welfare of that community, and he's been committed to safe programs and multitude of programs for people in whichever community. Now, we know about that, and you guys worked with him, and our tribute to that knowledge, our privilege to that knowledge, and certainly can talk about Dave. I want to talk about Dave at Fairmont West High School back in 1969 when he was the Fairmont West Dragon football player. By the way, this is 50-year class reunion 2020, and Dave, if you haven't gotten the news yet, they're trying to reschedule your reunion for 2021, so you know that because of COVID it got canceled. But here's some information. And my affiliation with Dave is being one of the assistant football coaches on that squad for Dave. We try to give most of our players nicknames back then. Now, Dave was a tall, lean kind of guy, long arms, and at 17, 18 years old, at 6'2", he was kind of gangly, and we thought we were going to give him the name Jingles, but that name had already been taken. We had another player, a little taller, and so that name was gone, and Jim Miklas got that name, and so we didn't have a name for Dave, so we weren't sure exactly what was going to happen. But we did notice some things about Dave, physical characteristics. 6'2" or so, long arms, skinny body, and he seemed to walk all the time like this. Seemed to always move around like that. And we weren't sure exactly what was wrong. We thought his helmet was too large. So we sent him to the trainer to have that reviewed, and found out the helmet was right, but he still went around like that. Ear pads, check the ear pads. See if it's nice and tight and chin strap around. We did that. We got that taken care of. That wasn't the problem because Dave, what the heck's wrong? You know, what is it with David? Well, we found out after a little more examination, his entire head and neck, he just wobbles. He just wobbles. And so he's wobbling. We saw it on film. There goes Dave running down the film. Oh, there's Dave wobbling down the film. There goes Dave in drills. There goes Dave on sprints, wobbling down there. And one of our coaches, not sure whether it was Gary Prizer, Bill McConnell, or it might have been Coach Hoppy, our head coach, blurted out the name Noodles. Noodles. So Dave Noble is Noodles to all of his buddies. And if he gets back to that reunion, he'll be lovingly called Noodles. And matter of fact, when I called one of his friends to talk to him about this event, he said, "Is it Dave? Noodles are going to be there." That's the first thing he said. Now, that name stuck. Let me tell you about his playing ability. You brothers would know this. In football, we look for speed. We look for balance, strength, and quickness. Well, none of those quite fit Dave. That wasn't just quite there. He worked in those skill capacities. He worked his way up to high average. His ability was his height. He made us look like a big team. And so you say, well, how did Dave be so successful playing for the Dragons of Fairmont West High School? Well, Dave brought other characteristics and other qualities that were given to him lovingly by his parents and to the other members of the family. Dave brought to our team, as you all know, he brought loyalty to every player, every kid, every coach, and to that school. He brought hard-working ethics. Everything we asked him to do, David did. He brought hustle. If he couldn't go fast enough, he at least gave us all he got every play. And when we put David on the field, we knew we were going to get 110% from David Noodles every time he was on the field, and we did. In closing, David, I want to tell you that your buddies, Jim Miklas, Tim Ireland, Minnick, Lineball, Jackson, Bucher, and all those guys, they're all pulling for you, and they're all thinking about you. And one story to you, Dave, about Tim Ireland and Bucher. Since this was their 50th reunion, you know those guys are kind of, well, they're kind of spirited. Bucher and Ireland put on their purple T-shirts, 110% Fairmont football, put on their letter jackets, and they walked just as you did, David, from school down to the stadium one more time, sporting their letter sweaters for Fairmont and for you guys. So that's just something that you know. Maybe you know about it from email. To you, David, I want to say one thing. Peace out. Peace out to you, David, and go Dragons. And to those of you here, starting the Friday after Thanksgiving, the Dorwood Optimist will be selling Christmas trees at Strickland Marshall. I have to get that in or I get fined. I get fined. David, best of luck to you. We're all praying for you, buddy.
Dave, just a FYI, I've heard the noodle story about 6 times, but it's always nice to hear it again, Frank. Thank you so much. I'm remiss at not actually introducing a couple of our council members that came today. Tony Klepaz, Councilman Klepaz and Councilman Duke came today. Thank you. And Councilman Wanamaker. Thank you all for coming. Dave, here to support you from the city of Kettering. We all are, a lot of us have known Dave a very, very long time, some longer than others. And I'd like to bring up now Arnie Biondo, Executive Director of the Centerville, Washington Township, and a really, really close friend of Dave.
Thank you, Mary Beth. You know how long? It's been since 1981. And I came to work in the city of Kettering from the Chicago suburbs. And one of the first people I met was Dave Noble. We started out as colleagues, and we ended up being friends now. I don't know, Frank, did you teach math? I think 39, 40 years now. So and Dave, right here, you know, it says friend, Arnie Biondo. So that means I get to talk about friendship and Dave Noble. First, I want to tell you, Dave, there's a lot of your friends here. I did a quick count, about 40, 45 people here, including some friends that you know well. Stein Pedersen, wave Stein. He's back there waving. He even came out in his shorts, and it's about 50 degrees. That's how bad he wanted to be here. Rick Strader's here, Bill Cheerhart, a bunch of folks that you would list as friends. So I don't know if it was intentional, but I guess I get to talk on behalf of Dave's friends. Now, let me tell you, that's a heavy weight, because I have never known anybody in my life who has more friends than Dave Noble. And Dave, you can't necessarily see it, but where we're standing on this little island, there are 3 trees. And I'm thinking these 3 oak trees have been planted in your honor. And they probably could signify a lot of things. You know, first thing I thought of is, well, you have 3 wonderful children that represent Ryan, Katie, and Sean. You know, you could probably even draw some of religious thought to it, but here's what I'm thinking about it, and I think this represents Dave so well. You know, a guy I once worked with said about me, and I got to say this about Dave, and you know him, Dave, Carrot Bavogian, one of the many Bavogian and that is Dave never met a stranger, right? He never met a stranger, and if you met Dave, whether you knew it or not, you all of a sudden had a friend. The thing about Dave that I've noticed over the years, and Dave, you know this is true, which is if you meet Dave, then you are bound to meet his other friends. So here's what the trees mean to me, right? So the one right behind me, this is Dave, and this one over here, this is friend A, and Dave meets friend A, makes a friend, and the first thing he does, as soon as he can, is he goes over to this other tree, which is friend B, and says, hey, friend A, you need to get to know friend B. Pretty soon A and B are friends. And, you know, I'm going to just shout out, I'm pretty sure our good friend, our mutual friend, Mike Fall is on the line here. And, you know, that's how Mike and I became fast friends, too. I didn't know Mike. He worked up in Vandalia. Who cared about Vandalia? But, you know, one of my first meetings, gosh, I can't even remember what we called it. Do you remember, Becky? Miami Valley Park and Recreation Association, I think, right? And I came to a meeting. Dave says, hey, you got to meet this guy from Vandalia, Mike Fall. So, just in closing, I want to say, going off of what Frank said, the different things that Dave has brought to all of our lives and his family lives is this great gift of friendship. And he has been a good friend to me, good friend to us all. And Dave, so glad you're here today, and I'm so glad we could do this for you. Mary Beth?
Thank you, Arnie. I just remembered something, Dave. You were one of my instructors at Revenue Management School. So I don't know what that means, whether I'm way younger than you or whether you're way older than me. But I do remember that you were one of my instructors, and by the way, an excellent instructor at that. And at this time, I'd like to introduce one of our incredible former employees, Connie Campbell. Connie was the first manager and leader of Rosewood Art Center. And I always told Connie, even when she left, I don't know how many years ago now, Connie was Rosewood Art Center. So Connie?
Okay. Hi, Dave, Mary Kay. I took my mask off, and I don't take my mask off for just anybody, so you should feel privileged. Okay, I know we spoke about a month ago. It was a great conversation. So I won't bring up a lot of things that we spoke about, like
Connie, pull that mic down a little bit.
whoops,
There you go.
like chickens. Can you hear that?
Yeah.
Chickens. Dave doesn't want to hear about chickens. It's a long story. I lived on a farm and I raised chickens and I butchered chickens, and anyway, Dave doesn't want to hear about that. So we won't talk about chickens anymore. It says right here that I'm a former employee, but I'm also a dear friend, and he knows that. You can't work with Dave, for Dave, without being a dear friend. Isn't that right, everybody that's worked for him? Oh my gosh. In fact, I was living in Athens, Ohio, and in 1984, I met Dave in Cleveland at an art conference, and he convinced me to come here and apply for this job. And Joe and Dave were so wonderful, I couldn't say no. It was a fantastic opportunity. And no telling, Dave, what I would be doing now or where I would be if you and Joe hadn't hired me. Well, since then, and that was 1985, I came here, and we started Rosewood. And Rosewood is just fabulous. The rec center is fabulous. Everything that has built up, and I know you've been here visiting everything, and you see the development that's happened. It's just fantastic, and it's your legacy. So want to thank you for that. I was thinking, okay, and the tree dedication is so wonderful for you. You well deserve it. So I thought, okay, I think I'll tell one story that will just kind of be like, this is Dave Noble. I think when I started working here, I had been here for 2 days, and I had moved here from Athens, Ohio. I didn't know anything about this area of the state or Kettering, and Dave said, my second day, he says, okay, Connie, you've got a gallery opening at the government center tonight. And I said, what? And he says, you've got to be at a gallery opening at the government center tonight. And I said, oh, okay, well, all right. So I went to the government center, and it was on a Tuesday night, City Council, Tuesday night, and City Council was having a meeting upstairs, and you all know the government center, it's all open. And so the gallery space was a circle around the bottom of the City Council. And there was about 75 people there, and they were talking and laughing and looking at the artwork, and council was going on upstairs. And I thought, oh no. So this guy comes down from upstairs. This guy comes down, and finds out who I am and where I am, and he walks over to me and he starts cussing me out. And I'm going, oh no. And I thought, oh, the mayor just cussed me out. Oh. And I thought Jerry Bush was the mayor at the time. And I thought, oh no. And I said, well, I can't do anything about it. This show's going on. I can't stop people from talking and laughing and having a good time. So he goes back upstairs. And then a few minutes later, he comes back down and he cusses me out again. And I'm going, oh gosh, that's twice the mayor's cussed me out on my second day. And so the next day I had to drive to Oxford, Ohio for a retreat that was at the state park there. What's the name of the state park in Oxford? Yeah, Houston Woods. Arnie was there. There were a whole lot of people there. So we were going to have a retreat in Oxford, Ohio, wherever that was. This is before GPS. So I found it. I drove and I finally got to Oxford, Ohio, and I said to Dave, at the opening last night, the mayor came down twice and cussed me out about the opening. And he said, the mayor did that? And I said, yeah. And he says, what did he look like? And I explained what he looked like, and he goes, no, that wasn't the mayor. He said, that was Ira Stanley. Remember Ira Stanley? Yeah. Cussed me out twice. So anyway, I got a big kick out of that, and I thought I'd just tell you that story. Those of you who don't know Ira Stanley, he was in charge of the facilities department, and a notorious man. So anything that he didn't like or anything I thought he was the mayor. But anyway, Jerry Bush was the mayor, and he's such a fantastic mayor, fantastic guy. So, Dave, that's my story. And again, I'll let everybody get on with the tree dedication. You and Mary Kay deserve this. This is a fantastic legacy for you. Thanks.
Connie, I miss your storytelling. And Dave, I do want to tell you one thing. So Rosewood, that we acquired in 1985, just so that you know this, is still the same building that we acquired in 1985, except for two things. City now owns Rosewood, and that's one. And number two, we will start renovations on Rosewood beginning in 2021. So when Connie talked about legacy, it certainly is a legacy to the creativity, the vision you and Joe had to bring arts into this community, and it will continue on as a renovated building we hope to have completed in 23. Last but not least, we have John Noble, your brother, who is going to speak with us today. John?
Hey Dave, hey Mary. I got this note to ask if I wanted to speak, and I said sure, I'd be happy to speak. I'd be honored to speak on David's behalf. And shot a quick note to David. What do you want me to say, and better yet, what don't you want me to say? First and foremost, David wishes for me to express his deep gratitude to all of you folks for being here to honor him today. This is just a great honor. It's going to look just beautiful, fantastic. I can't think of better symbolism for David. And the other thing he said was, be brief. And I promised I will be brief. But I'm sitting here listening to everybody speak, and these snippets keep running through my head. And by the way, before I forget it, one other thing that I promised him I would say is, on this November 11th, thanks to each and every one of you veterans out there. We wouldn't be the country we are here today without you. Specifically, I want to thank my Father in heaven, both my physical father and my godly father. My family father, was a World War II vet. I've got a brother that served in the Vietnam era. I've got a son that's getting ready to head to Afghanistan Sunday. So we've got a little bit of background on that, and I just honor each and every one of our vets. I promised I'd be brief, but there were some things that were said that just made these snippets going through my mind. Frank, you talking about the football, and the one of the things that reminded me that what you were saying is that David, his senior year, won the most spirited award. And you're right, he wasn't the biggest guy on the team. He wasn't the fastest. He was, like you said, the noodle on the field. But that spirit is what carried him through so much of his career, so much of his time. You know, he loved this city. His 3 kids were born here. His first job for the city of Kettering was over at the rec center. He was an ice guard. And got to drive the Zamboni eventually. That was pretty big time, you know. And went on to become the manager of the rec. At some point in time there, he met this young lady who went on to become his wife. And Mary Kay, we dearly love you. I want to honor her today because without Mary Kay standing behind David, none of this would have happened. I can remember David at his retirement party getting up to speak, and I've always admired David's ability to share his emotion. But he looked at her and he said, without that fireball behind me, I couldn't have done any of this. So Mary Kay, thank you for all you've done and are doing for David today. Arnie, you talked about friends, and yeah, we're brothers, but we're also friends. It's been great to actually become closer together. You know, through this illness and so on, we've gotten to speak more often, and I want to remind each and every one of you that when you go home today, you get the opportunity to say to somebody, hey, I love you, and don't forget about that, because that also is what David's all about.
Amen.
He's got 3 wonderful kids, a beautiful wife. He's got in-laws, Buzz and Marilyn. Thanks for being here today. I could go on and on. These snippets that I knew were coming into my head that I was going to lose eventually, they're pretty much gone right now. But he talks with a great deal of love about the city of Kettering. From being hired through the CETA program as an ice guard, through becoming the center director, and all this through the CETA program. He spent 3.5 years here in what he referred to as the University of Kettering, because the skills that all the people that developed here have enabled them to become directors all over the country. And that's what, again, this city of Kettering is about. David wanted to mention that despite the fact he left for jobs elsewhere, the friendships he made here lasted a lifetime, and Kettering will always be his home. And thanks again for the recognition. That's all I got.
Thank you, John. And John, don't go too far. We are now going to do our ceremonial tree planting now, and I'd like to invite John, Arnie, Connie, Frank, Buzz, and Marilyn Portune, and then Paula, Allison, John, Keith, Andrea, to come on up.
Get the brothers in there, get a shovel.
Okay.
You guys
Come on,
work good then?
It's just like when you work with chickens.
Yeah. Where's the chicken?
Maybe go on count of 3, get some dirt on your shovel, and we'll be ready to go.
Is this dirt?
That's,
Close enough. I think it used to be leaves.
That's our
There's a piece of bag there.
It's Athens Pete.
1, 2, 3.
It's awful.
Oh,
Uh-oh. Sorry.
yeah, get another one.
There we go.
Great.
It's awful pretty dirt. Pretty dirt. You want to finish it? Do we finish it?
Finish it up, Connie. I know you're into it.
I just
Put her all
did
in,
this
Connie.
yesterday.
Get her a rake. Get her a rake.
Can't waste this dirt.
Gary, your job is done now.
Okay, this gets free lunch for us now,
Yes,
right?
absolutely.
Okay.
One more time, Carl's going to span the audience again. Everybody, a big wave to Dave and Mary Kay. You can talk.
Get the man, Dave.
Hey, Dave.
Congratulations!
Hey, Dave.
Very good.
Hey Dave, your Manchurian little gal's here.
Noodles! Go get him! Love you, brother.
Yeah, close enough.
Also, a shout out to our folks that are watching from near and far. Thank you for joining us today. Dave, Mary Kay, thank you for being here. Glad that we were able to celebrate the city that you love so dearly. Thank you all for coming.